Alleluia, 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 alleluia. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Change your mind and believe in the gospel. Alleluia, 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 alleluia.
God is with you.
And also with you.
You're reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Christ.
At the sight of the crowds, Jesus' heart was moved with pity because they were distressed and dejected like sheep without a shepherd. And Jesus said to his disciples, "The harvest is bountiful, but the laborers are few. Beg the overseer of the harvest to send laborers out to bring in the crops." Jesus then summoned the 12 and gave them authority to expel unclean spirits, heal the sick, and diseases of all kinds. Here are the names of 12 apostles. First, there was Simon, nicknamed Peter, that is, the Rock, and his brother Andrew. Then James ben Zebedee and his brother John. Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew the tax collector, James the Ben Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus. These 12 James sent out after giving them the following instructions. Don't visit Gentile regions, and don't enter the Samaritan town. Go instead to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, make this proclamation: the reign of heaven, heal those who are sick, raise the dead, cure leprosy, expel demons. For you receive fully, now give freely. Always begins among the people who you know, who you love, who you struggle with, and who share the feelings of being wounded. Jesus looks on us and looks on the readings today with compassion and calls us by name. Today, Jesus' gospel looks at the crowd, and his heart is moved with deep empathy. He sees people who are tired and searching, who are hurting, like the sheep without a shepherd. And what does he do? He calls 12 ordinary people. He entrusts them with his mission and calls them by name. He doesn't choose the best of scholars He doesn't choose the most successful. He chooses people who know what it is like to work hard, to struggle. That sounds like me in many respects, and perhaps all of us. Huh? That indeed life is full of disappointments, full of hardships. We lose people who we love. This reminds me of a dear friend who died on Thursday. Unfortunately, he committed was found dead in his car at the market down the street. His name was Tia. He and I shared a lot of our profession. He lived. You would say the words that every young aspirant, follow me. He would call them also by name. And the student would leave everything, family, home, livelihood, to walk in the rabbi, listening to every word, watching every gesture, learning to imitate him so closely that at the end of the day, he was literally covered with the dust of the rabbi. People would say, may you be covered in the dust of your rabbi. Jesus turns the whole system of calling upside down. He chooses fishermen, apprentices, laborers, people who smell and sweat like seawater, people who know the human condition. This is the Franciscan way, I might add. Simple, humble, trusting that God can work through ordinary people. Francis was always concerned of spreading the good news in the marketplace where people would gather. Every rabbi had a yoke, his interpretation of Scripture and how he lived. Jesus' yoke, I believe, are his Beatitudes. His yoke of mercy. His yoke is healing. His yoke is setting a table with the poor, the forgotten, the ones who feel they don't belong. St. Francis understood this, and he didn't want a complicated spirituality. He wanted the gospel that could be lived with bare feet and open hands. A gospel where the poor were not a problem to be solved, but brothers and sisters to be embraced. Discipleship, then, is not just a title. It is a relationship that changes us from within, not so much from the outside. Discipleship is truly a transformation. St. Anthony, a disciple of, just today we remember St. Anthony of Padua. Before he was a saint, he was simple Fernando, bright, privileged, well-educated in the Augustinian tradition. But we ask, what changed him? What changed Anthony? The witness of 5 simple Franciscan brothers who gave their lives to the gospel in Morocco. Anthony saw in them what Francis saw, a way of life shaped not by power, but by love, not by status, but by simplicity, not by fear, but by trust. Anthony recognized the voice of Christ calling him to embrace the Franciscan way. He left everything familiar and joined the little band of brothers, and even with all his brilliance, he would not teach them until Francis gave him permission. And Francis would write, "I am pleased that you teach sacred theology to the brothers, providing it does not extinguish the spirit of prayer and devotion." That's a direct quote from that letter that Francis wrote Anthony. Anthony's brilliance was always rooted in humility, prayer, and service. That is the Franciscan heart, and that is what our call of discipleship is. So what does this mean then for us at Emmaus? It looks like showing up for one another even when there are only a few. It looks like listening with compassion and sharing our stories. It looks like choosing peace when the world is in chaos. It looks like noticing the person who feels invisible and sits often outside our door. It looks like letting Jesus' dust cover our feet, slowly, daily, quietly, and humbly. It looks like daily prayer in easy and difficult times. It looks like knowing we are the chosen, not by merit, but by grace. Finally, it looks like hearing your name. So the simple Franciscan invitation then can be said this way. Do you hear your name in Jesus' call? What is your response? How has this response changed your life? Do you see the experience of dust on your feet, or in your hands, or in your clothing? May we walk in the footsteps of Jesus, in the joy of Francis, and with the wisdom